Hello. What's up? Sorry. I'm very tired. That was a lot of TV. I just, yeah. The Bear season 3 is absolutely insane. In the membrane. I can't believe I watched it all in one night. It was not a good decision, but here we are, giving you an early review of the entire season. Woo! Woo! Um, yeah, this is The Bear season 3. I did a review of season 1 and season 2 already in our other, I guess, version of the Jared cast. So definitely go check those out if you've already seen season 1 and season 2. I'll get into some general thoughts on season 3, and then we'll get into spoilers later on. But yeah, before that, the Blu-ray of the day is the A24 exclusive edition of Aftersun. So if you remember, I had as my favorite movie of 2022, I think my favorites were Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Batman, and what was it? Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery. And then I had Aftersun fourth, I believe. And when I watched this on Blu-ray, it jumped up to number 1. Yeah, those other movies, Aftersun is the shit. Aftersun is the shit. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, Paul Mescal, Frankie Corio, directed in Charlotte Wells' directorial debut. And you got this really awesome kind of tape box style of the Blu-ray case. It's very nice. It's paper. And it opens up how? Oh, it's a slipcover. Okay, cool. It's a slipcover. You just see that. That's a really cool thing. That's a really cool thing, I think. Let me do this so you can see Frankie reading a book next to her dad. Or no, what's her name in the movie? Her name is Sophie. Her name is Sophie in the movie. And then you got a little booklet right here that's really quite impressive. Oh no, it's not a booklet. It's a stack of photos. This is cool. Okay, boom. These are the photos that they take in the movie with the freaking disposable camera. Some of them are, I think. Or some of them are just screenshots. Cute. Haunting. Even more haunting. Yeah. Very, very good movie. Excellent film. Best editing of 2022. I'm going to talk a little bit about editing here in the Bear Season 3 review. And yeah, Aftersun, highly recommend you get on Blu-ray. Sadly, the only place you can get this is the A24 shop, where they overprice everything. Hopefully, if you have a coupon from a friend who loves film or something, you can use it on this. I decided to splurge because I just really loved the film, and I wanted to watch it again in really good quality because it's not streaming anywhere. A24, get your acts together. Stop overpricing your merch. It's so annoying. Last piece of merch I get from A24, but it is worth it. It's so good. It's so good. Okay. So, Bear Season 3, we are back and bigger than ever and more hectic than ever with 10 episodes of The Bear. This is definitely an interesting season, I would say. I loved most of season 1. I really loved season 2. Season 2 was mwah. And season 3, I loved most of season 3. I think there is a pattern here where they take a long time to set up things and set up storylines and conflicts and character development. And one of my complaints about season 1, as I said in the season 2 review, was that there was just a lot of setup. There was just not enough real meaty development, real real stuff for me to latch onto these characters. And I loved all the characters, but I needed more, and I got more in season 2. And here, I kind of feel the same way. Now, there is an interesting caveat to my thoughts, because I read that season 3 and season 4 were shot back to back. So, with that in mind, and also this is the only season I think to say to be continued after. I could be wrong about that. I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, season 3 ends with a to be continued. It ends on a cliffhanger. So yeah, season 3 definitely sets up more stuff to happen in season 4. So I am excited for season 4. I think, if anything, that's the best thing that season 3 did, was get me excited for season 4. And yeah, I guess season 1 was all about grief. Season 2 was all about finding stability and finding an anchor and finding purpose. And then season 3 is all about legacy. So, yeah, we get to see how Carmy wants to define his legacy with the bear. Sid wants to define her legacy as a chef. Richie is thinking about his legacy as a father. He just figured out his purpose, and now he's trying to figure out his legacy. The side characters, Sugar, is aware of her legacy as a mother, her mother's legacy that affected her, and how that relates to her fears in becoming a new mother. Cicero, as a man, as an uncle, is worried about the legacy he leaves behind, and about what he does with his money, and where his money's all going to go. And then Andrea Terry, and then Chef Terry, played by Olivia Colman, in season 3, in just one episode, also talks a little bit about legacy here, as a chef and as just a person, and what she wants for her life. There is another person who does talk about legacy extensively. It's a spoiler cameo, so I will not give it away right now. I'll talk about it later. But yeah, like season 3, like I said, season 1 and season 3 both heavily focus on setup. Even though this season is well done, well paced, and thoroughly entertaining, it's still just as funny, still just as gut wrenching and dark, and heart racing. It, to me, feels incomplete, just like season 1. So I anticipate that season 4 will be that much more satisfying. If season 2 was as strong as it was, I imagine, oh my God, season 4 is going to be crazy. A lot of the themes that we see continued throughout season 1, 2, and 3 are stability versus volatility, grief, reconciliation, second chances, and maybe the most important theme of the show, that every second counts. This is a slogan that was revealed last season. Carmy learned it from Chef Terry, and passed it on to his kitchen. Luca did the same thing with his kitchen, and Terry did the same thing to Richie. So, we see all these different pieces moving together and sort of coming together in the end. However, because there's a to be continued, it still kind of feels like, I want more. This story's not really complete. So I really don't blame Christopher Storer. I think this is intentional, and I'm trusting that because season 1 and season 2 were so good, that all my feelings about season 3 feeling unfulfilled, I think those will get resolved, and those will get fixed, and that after I watch season 4, I'm probably gonna love season 3 that much more. Same thing with 1 and 2. Yeah, those are pretty much my non-spoiler thoughts. I do have some favorite episodes. I think episode 1, episode 6, and I forget which one Ice Chips is. Ice Chips might be episode 8 or something. But yeah, Tomorrow, Napkins, and Ice Chips were my favorite episodes. Keep an eye out for those when you get to it, if you have not already seen those episodes. A lot of people really like Doors, episode 3. To me, that was probably the one of the weaker ones, just because episode 1 is really, really awesome. It's basically a 35-minute montage, and I love it. I can't get enough of it. Episode 3 is kind of the same thing, and I feel like they're just too close together. And it makes sense for the story, it makes sense for the aesthetic of the season, and episode 3 has the best shot in the entire season. However, it's a little too much too soon, too close together. I wanted a little more, maybe, variety. On the other hand, you know, we did see some variety in that there is no like extended long take this season, so that's kind of interesting. And yeah, I think overall my thoughts on the characters are that I like where the characters are going. They haven't necessarily gone that far, but I think the way that we've dissected Carmi this season, I think is especially poignant and relevant to me as a person, as a man, but also to everybody who wants to create something for themselves and wants to create a legacy. I think this show is absolutely as essential as it ever has been. I think definitely enjoy season 3. I recommend season 3. I don't recommend necessarily watching it in one night, even though I had a blast doing it. The series is, again, still just as dark, just as funny, just as hectic as the other 2 seasons. I highly recommend it. And yeah, stay tuned for spoilers, which will begin right now. Yeah, Thomas Keller showed up. What the like, I knew he worked at the French Laundry. He said he worked at the French Laundry earlier in season 1 or something like that. But this legendary chef showing up just for a cameo, and for one of the most important scenes in the series, is just so sick. Yeah, by far the best cameo in the thing. And this one even had John Cena. Like, John Cena cameo was crazy. Like, him playing one of the facts is crazy. Yeah, it's insane. Speaking of the facts, that's one of the focus points I want to talk about today. I do think that, although I love the fact that we're getting more and more information about the family and about the kind of weird mythology of Neil Fack, I think it was a little too much fact this season, a little too much facking. I just really... I do like the reveal of John Cena being one of the 8 Fack brothers, but man, they were so much this season, and I understand why they are there. They're there to comfort, they're there to give comedic relief, they're there to provide emotional support for the main characters, but I do think a lot of the bits were repetitive. And so that led to me kind of not really enjoying them by the end. I do still think that Maddie Matheson's performance as Neil is fantastic. I think he's really, really good. And yeah, another focus point is the main 3 characters, obviously Sid, Richie, and Carm. So Carmi, he is still struggling. In the very first episode, he apologizes, and yet we see kind of early on in the series. As soon as episode 2, the apology wasn't necessarily genuine, or at least the apology didn't really change anything inside him. He still wants to stifle Richie and doesn't know how to nurture Richie. He still doesn't really know how to nurture Sydney. And so the result is that there's a power struggle. There's a dysfunction between the three of them. The dysfunction, unfortunately, gets physical. It gets very, very verbal. And over the course of Doors, we get to see that throughout their first month, it just gets more and more chaotic because of the way Carmi is approaching greatness and approaching his path to greatness. He believes that his path to excellence is by just having a list of non-negotiables and sticking to it and not budging an inch, not compromising for the two people who matter most in the Bear besides him. And so it's very, very, I think the non-negotiables list, to me, represents or signifies Carmi's refusal to repent, or his struggle to repent. I don't know if he's refusing, I don't like to change. I think he does genuinely want to change. He does genuinely want to become a good person and better person, but it's just really freaking hard for him to do it. So he doesn't. He keeps putting it off. Life keeps getting in the way, or at least that's the excuse that he gives. With Richie's story, Richie has found his purpose in life, though we discussed that in season 2. He understands that he is a people person, that his goal in life is to make people's lives better, make people's days better, to be that guy, to be that front of house sensei, and just be in control of that dojo. But the problem is, because there's this new dynamic with Carmi, Sydney, and him, it's like now they're at odds. Now they're even more at odds than they ever have been. And Richie is stronger facing Carmi. We see this actually in my favorite shot of the series, which is in episode 3, where Carmi and Richie are glaring at each other through the slit, through the glass slit in the kitchen in the front of house. Carmi is lit with white light. Richie's lit with blue light. Black background, white background, and they're just giving each other the death stare. And it sucks because they're both getting stronger. They're both so close at arriving to where they need to be, and they're just not there yet. But we love them. We trust in Christopher Storer to get them there. Sydney has not addressed the panic attack that she had in season 2. In fact, I think because she has been putting it off, because she has been stifling her emotions, stifling her, or bottling up her internal conflict. I think that's why she has another panic attack at the end of this season. I think that's part of, they do give us some sort of a visual cue as to what triggers her panic attack, but I think, having the added pressure of becoming a partner with Chef Adam Shapiro, or becoming a partner with Carmi, I think is really, really going to be a struggle for her. I do want her and Carmi to find a way to coexist in the Bear, but it's not going to work unless Carmi changes. It's really not. And I think a lot of Sydney struggles to reconcile her doubts and reconcile her desire to see the Bear through are just they're not gonna come to fruition, or they're not gonna be resolved until Carmi changes. Fun thing about the music, it ends with the last song in the soundtrack is Disarm by Smashing Pumpkins. And the lyrics are about this guy who wants to try to end the cycle of abuse that he's been through. This runs, very parallel with Carmi's conflict, who, is still trying to recover from the abuse given by Joel McHale's character from way back when, and he just can't break that cycle. And so I think that's what that last episode is trying to tell us. But let me read the lyrics for you real quick, and then we'll discuss it more. I used to be a little boy, so old in my shoes, and what I choose is my voice. What's a boy supposed to do? The killer in me is the killer in you, my love. I send this smile over to you. This is something that Carmi must do, or else the bear will fall apart. They are in deep shit with their finances, as outlined by the computer, who's a very welcome addition to this cast, and Cicero, played by Oliver Platt. And we see at the end, or we hear from Cicero, that he can't handle a bad review. If they get a bad review, the bear will shut down. And the bear gets a mixed review at the very end. And so there's still a future, there's still hope, but something has got to change. Carmi cannot run the restaurant the way he's been running it. Marcus fully trusts him. Tina, Ibra fully trust him, but if he wants to keep Richie and Sid on board, he's gonna have to figure out a new way to do things. He's gonna have to figure out how to nurture them. And I think that's such a brilliant thing in the last episode, because that's what Thomas Keller says. Just remember, it's all about nurturing. This was the first piece of advice he received from the head of the French Laundry. And Carmi has, over the years, has forgotten that advice, or he has abandoned it, or it hasn't come back to him because of the abuse that he's gone through. And so hopefully for season 4, Carmi will finally break the cycle and finally find a new way to run the bear. That was the whole point of this. This was the whole idea, was that him and Sid would find a new way to do things, would find a better way to do things. And I really, really hope they get there, and that it's earned, and that it's emotionally resonant. I have faith that it will. But yeah. One thing about the editing, episode 1 and episode 3 are just extended montages, which is very interesting, very fast paced. They just fly right by, which is kind of crazy. But there's also more long episodes this season. A significant number of episodes are above the 45-minute mark. And I think this gave us more opportunities to slow the pace down, really get to know the characters more, especially Tina, which I love. I'll get to Tina in a second. And Sugar, or Natalie, who I also love this season. I think those two were the highlights of season 3 for me. They just had, I love their seasons. Cried my eyes out. I think also the cinematography took a big upgrade. There are several scenes that take place in really, really tight close-up, and they're even more steady, even more piercing, even more just intense. It feels like they're cutting really fast, but they're actually not. They're actually holding the shots for more than a few seconds, and we just don't really feel it because the scene is that intense, and because we're so close to them with really long lenses. So yeah, those are my thoughts about that. Okay, so my favorite episodes, like I said, the first one I think was such a welcome change of pace because of the way that it's edited. We see through multiple timelines, multiple jumps in time that we see Carmi's past. We see a lot of Carmi's early interactions with the restaurants where he learned his stuff. We see the first time he left Chicago for New York. We see some backstory for a lot of characters. We see Michael's funeral. We see the first time Sid had tasted a dish by Carmi. We see the first time Carmi and Richie kind of butt heads over the bear, or over the original beef. And then we also see that Carmi didn't even go to Michael's funeral, which was really heavy. And it's a very, very heavy episode. It's also underscored with the song Together by 9 Inch Nails. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did a bunch of movie scores that got rejected, and they compiled them into this album called Ghosts 5. And this song Together is 10 minutes long, and it plays throughout the entire episode, and it's fantastic. It just works so well. It's very meditative. This is probably the most abstract episode of The Bear, and I loved it. I love this first episode. It was amazing. My other favorite episode is Napkins, which is the first episode directed by Io Adebari, who played Sid. Sid is not in this episode, so it makes sense for her to take a crack at it. And also, like, it's just really good. Like, it's a really well-written script, and she did such a good job with the actors and with the shots, with the 2 shots between Michael and Tina. Speaking of which, this is Tina's backstory. This is how she became a cook, and it's really, really touching, man. I was watching her go through the pain of the job search. It really hit close to home, because that's kind of where I'm at right now in my life, with trying to find film jobs and even trying to find food service jobs. I was in food service for 4 years, if you don't, not including DoorDash, and customer facing jobs for 8 years, and for a whole year I couldn't find anything. I couldn't even get an interview at at some fast food places. And the way that store wrote her struggle, the way that store wrote the people who rejected her, was just so real, and so absolutely valid. Every little bit of line of dialogue I've heard in my personal life. And when she finally gets that moment of peace, when she eats that Italian beef for the first time, and just breaks down crying, and Mikey sees it, Mikey comforts her, and they comfort each other, and it's oh man, I would really love to see Io direct something else, because that scene was just so perfect. That's why I like The Bear. Those scenes are just so well earned. God, yeah, that episode holds up the whole thing, and it reminds me why I love this show. And then the other favorite episode that I have is Ice Chips, which is just as intense as Six Fishes, but for a different reason, right? Because Sugar's in labor, and it's crazy. The only person who answers her call is the one person she didn't want around, and finally reconciling with Donna in her most painful moment of her life. and Donna finally recognizing the kind of mother that she was, or maybe she'd recognized it and is finally just admitting it out loud to someone besides Peter, was so powerful and so tender and so just lovely. It was so lovely. And just the wave of relief that washes over when Peter arrives on Sugar's face, on Donna's face, on my heart, just because it's like, man, this guy that like is kind of a joke is also just the one guy you need in your corner. And when he finally arrives from work, it's like, it's just the weight of the world is just lifted off your shoulders. Like, okay, it's gonna be okay. Sugar's gonna be okay. Yeah, I really, really love, I really, really love Ice Chips. And the last episode is very good too. The kind of funeral for Ever, when Chef Terry decides to retire. And she finally reveals her first name is Andrea. We learn a little bit more about her and about the effect that she had on the world. Throughout the rest of the series, we see like cameos of Will Poulter as Luca, and see kind of the first interactions he had with Carmy, see Carmy's first early success in those restaurants, and just how far ahead of everyone he was. But, you know, it all kind of, you know. So, seeing that funeral was very interesting because now all of a sudden Sid understands the depth of the, like she understood, but now she sees like, oh, it actually doesn't have to be dysfunctional. Like we can actually, like there are people who can actually thrive like us, people like us who can actually thrive in a non-dysfunctional environment. And then also Carmy is finally confronted with his abuser, and this guy doesn't even care, doesn't even acknowledge that it was abuse. Or he does, and it's like, he doesn't, like, so what? Like, you're welcome. Which is the most painful thing anyone can hear. So it's a great last episode, Legacy. All right, those are my thoughts on The Bear Season 3. A little more mixed, but also with an asterisk, right? My thoughts on this season probably will improve after Season 4 comes out, so we'll see when it comes out. But yeah, I'm still highly optimistic about this show. I still love this show with all my heart. I will watch every episode of Season 4 probably when it comes out in one night. But yeah, please enjoy The Bear Season 3 and then enjoy it again. Watch it again. I watched a couple episodes in Season 1 and Season 2. I've seen a lot of episodes multiple times. Highly recommend doing that for this as well. Just because there's so much that goes on in Season 3. So, yeah. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Jared Cast. I haven't decided what I'll do yet. But yeah. Love you. Goodbye.